Thank you, President Scott. We're honored today to have our city manager, Ron Fehr, with us today. Ron began with the city in 1982 as in the Parks and Forestry Division. Worked his way up, and in April of 2000 became our city manager. As city manager, you probably all know he's responsible for all the operations of the city and implementation of the policies of the city commission. So if you don't like what Ron is doing, blame is Karen here and the others. So you blame them. So he just does what he's told. Ron is a member of the International City County Management Association, the Kansas Association of City County Management, where he was on the board of directors. And should note that Ron received from that organization the Buford M. Watson Award for Excellence in Public Management. The award is the highest award presented by the Kansas Association of City County Management. So congratulations to Ron, and let's welcome Ron here today.
Well, thanks, Eric, and I like that beautiful theme. I think you're all looking very dapper this afternoon, and just kind of the state of the city is pretty good. We ended the year stronger than we did last year financially, and started out with a little different picture, and Mayor Pro Tem McCullough will recognize the discussion of City Hall. So there's kind of a new addition out in front that you see on this picture that's not there yet. But, you know, it's kind of sad for the forester to stand up here and tell you we cut down a sycamore tree there today for that, to make room for that Parks and Recreation expansion. You know, when I started with the city, I started in the Parks and Recreation Department, and we went over to this shop building in City Park, which at the time, there was an office on the end that was actually designed as an office, and the rest was equipment bays. And they had one of those old barrel wood stoves in there, and that's how they heated the place. And they said, you're only going to be here for a couple of years till we find someplace better for you. Well, the Parks and Rec Department, as many of you know, have been there over 30 years. And so it's time to give them some quality facilities and office space and bring them over to City Hall where we can function more efficiently. The Commission at their work session this last week talked about a suitable memorial in Peace Memorial Auditorium, and there's a citizens group that's formed, a friends group, to raise funds and really try to quantify what that's going to be, a suitable memorial to our World War II veterans, as well as improvements to the city auditorium as well. So we had just a few things that we accomplished last year. Obviously, this is in the Blue Earth Place in the South redevelopment area. That's the Star Bond district. That's doing really well. I'll just note on Star Bonds, you know, that's where we get to keep the state sales tax generated up around Hy-Vee and the restaurants and then the south end. The good news there is we've advance paid over $5 billion of our principal. That's how well that project's doing. So that debt will be retired a lot sooner than it was anticipated. So those TIF and Star Bonds are doing really good. Great addition, this mixed-use facility in the south end. New apartments that went up there at 4th and Colorado. That's opened up late last fall, and they're booking. That was an added addition that wasn't really planned in the south end, so that's benefiting things as well. There you kind of see the map of that south end district, and there's a shot of the Holiday Inn Express, which is under construction and should open later this year. And then, of course, Civics Plus. What a great addition it's been. Last year I talked about a rendering, and it was under construction, and now they opened and moved into that. And, you know, Ward Morgan and his associates are doing dramatic things downtown and really revitalizing downtown, and it's exciting to see the activity that's occurring there. The Bluemont Hotel kind of changed the landscape there at that corner a little bit. Compared to what used to be there. Maybe just a little bit, huh? So, very nice facility. We also did some major improvements to Bluemont Avenue from 11th to that intersection, re-signalized it. People are saying, well, you know, the lights are all red sometimes. You know, the traffic can't move. Well, there's a pedestrian phase there to move people through, so the delay's about the same as it was. You just seem like you're staying there maybe a little bit longer. So. The good news, we have an intelligent transportation system that's going to help us move that traffic sooner. Library put on a great addition that just recently was dedicated and opened up, and a lot of private fundraising was held for that, and they did a great job. If you haven't been down there and looked at that, I'd sure encourage you to do that. Population continues to go up, 56,000 roughly, plus or minus for 2014 is the estimate, and we just see that continuing to rise. This is just kind of our busy map of development. The colors represent certain residential and commercial activity that's happened in the community. We call it our busy map, and it just continues to be busy. This is just about 273 living units added in 14, and a little more than last year. That single family is the bottom blue line. It stays fairly consistent. It's up a little bit as well, and then the rest is multifamily. Again, I talked a little bit about the finances. That's a picture of our outstanding debt. It's been a topic of interest over the years, ever since we issued the STAR bonds. Obviously, that's on our books. It's not on the state's books, so that doesn't hurt them any. The good news is that debt piece is going down. We have a lot of debt that's retiring. We have a fairly aggressive debt retirement schedule, typically 10 years and sometimes 4 years. So Eric helps us with that, with the audit committee, and they do a great job and give us great advice. So that's a good news story. We're in the just kind of finishing up our update to our comprehensive land use plan. I know Commissioner McCall is serving on that, and I think probably a couple other in here are, and we appreciate their help. Their last general public input meeting is this evening, I think, at 5:30 at City Hall. So if you don't like the way that's been going, you've still got chances. There's adoption processes at the Planning Board and the City Commission for you to get involved with that too. But this is really our kind of projection of how we should utilize land uses over the next few years, coming years. There's kind of the schedule. I talked about that. We've been discussing economic development uses, and this is just the original parameters when the sales tax was re-upped and approved by voters. The 35% would go toward property tax relief, and the other 65% would be split between traditional economic development as well as infrastructure. And at the retreat that the Commission held recently, there was discussion that we're going to have a work session coming up to talk about the parameters of that. You know, we created this very intensive return on investment model on we were going to invest and give incentives to companies, and we really didn't create that kind of analysis model for whether or not we're going to spend money on infrastructure or we're going to spend it on something else. And so we're going to talk about whether we should do that, and talk about whether we should limit ourselves each year on how much you invest. You know, so that's only a 10-year, and we have a lot of infrastructure needs in the community, and it's easy. It would be easy to go through the $20 million that's set aside for that fairly quickly. So some good discussion to have about that in the future. That just kind of gives you a pie chart of where the different funds are going relative to those economic development funds. NDAP, obviously, you've heard a lot about it. We're getting closer to get that final $300 million, and it obviously will have a huge impact on the community. That's just, I don't know if you've seen this. This is the slides for just construction jobs. So 2016, 2017, or excuse me, 2018 and 2019, over 800 construction workers on site just on that job site. So pretty significant impact just in the construction alone. The animal health corridor, we're on that west end of that. We have kind of our own corridor that we're doing some analysis on. Our Kimball corridor between North Manhattan and College Avenue. A lot of activity going on, not only in athletics, but in research, NBAF, the VRI, the Vet Med School, a lot of different things that's occurring there. And one of the things that President Schultz came to the City Commission and asked for, let's collaborate some more and look at all the different plans. Everybody, there's a K-State master plan, there's a veterinary master plan, there's an athletics master plan, there's a city master plan, there's a foundation has their plans. So let's talk about how we put all those together and figure out some strategies for making improvements along that corridor so that we can capitalize on NBAF, and I'm sure you've heard about animal health from some of the K-State folks and some of those points of emphasis. So that group's working right now, and they plan to submit a report later this year, so that's something you'll want to pay pay attention to. Just a little bit more, obviously the foundation has started their new building at Denison and Kimball, across from the fire station, and there's just some other examples around NBAF. NBAF's the big orange giant there in the middle. The purebred beef is going to move out of there. That sits on the north. That's a redevelopment opportunity for additional office and research facilities. One of the things we're looking at that stretch of Kimball between North Manhattan and Denison. We've got the old cattle machinery overpass that's really creates that narrow. Those lanes are kind of tight for 45, and none of you push that speed limit at all, I know. No. So, and crowd that neighbor. But so we talk about how we're going to redevelop that. Right now, the NBAF has a right-in, right-out off of Kimball to go back to the central utility plant that's under construction. And so we're looking at, can you straighten that curve out a little bit and maybe widen those lanes out and improve that corridor, make that a T intersection access to a new office and research park. So those are just some of the things that we're contemplating. There's a better picture of the kind of the K-State Research Park on North Manhattan on the right side of that screen, where most recently the Department of Agriculture moved in. That was a great model of the K-State Foundation investing their funds in a building with the rent that the Department of Agriculture is paying to retire the debt service on. So a great use of their abilities. If you've been up North Manhattan, and I encourage you to not go up there for a while, you've seen some red barriers and cones, and so we're rebuilding North Manhattan from Kimball south past that Research Drive intersection. So there's a couple of different stoplights. That's a project that's going to continue most of this year, probably even into the K-State folks said, you know, if you can have it done by football or the start of school next year, that'd be great. I said, that's going to be tough, but, you know, if weather stays like this, it might happen. It's been a great mild winter so far, and they're getting a lot done up there, but it'll actually be closed this summer. You won't be able to go up North Manhattan. So there'll be a warning sign at Bluemont to encourage you not to go that way this summer if you're trying to get around. But a great project, and that is a project we're planning to use some of the economic development infrastructure money on. At some point, we'll need to address the point below that between Claflin and that portion to improve it. That's an old rural section roadway with ditches, and it's very narrow, and I see Bill Muir's agreeing with that, and we'll need to address the rest of that corridor as other improvements happen along that corridor. Just some nice aerial pictures of, you know, the Grain Science Complex. Wow, what an amazing facility to have in our community. Only one like it in the world, and it's something that we should be proud of, and it's part of that North Corridor discussion. The other view from athletics, and what an amazing process that athletics is going through as well. We're flying through this quick, so we'll fly through about with the airport. This is just a rendition of the new terminal building. The piece on the right is something you notice now. It's nearly complete. It's taken a lot longer. It had weather delays last year. The winter wasn't so kind to us, and it really set it back. We should be finishing up a little bit close by the end of next month. Look forward to having a public open house probably end of February, early March, and then transition into that. This new facility will be 4 times the size of the current one. I think maybe I do have that slide. So the blue is what's there today, and we're wrapping all around that. So it'll be a facility that will serve us very well. It does have we'll have 2 passenger boarding bridges, so we're kind of getting into that modern era, and we don't have to go through the blowing snow out on the tarmac, and so we're excited about that, and we're also looking at trying to get some bigger ships in here. We're actually going to be talking with the City Commission next week at their commission meeting to enter into an agreement with American to bring some bigger planes in. Right now we're kind of, with the flights that we have, 3 to Dallas-Fort Worth and 2 to Chicago, on those 50 passenger planes, we're kind of stagnant. We can't really grow that capacity, and we need to grow that capacity. So we're working with them on trying to get some bigger regional jets. And you've heard that they're trying to get rid of these smaller regional jets anyway because they're losing pilots and they don't have enough to fly it. So building that capacity is important, and I don't know, some of you will remember when we started the service, it was a negative check mark on our NDAF analysis that we didn't have jet service. Well, that's back when we had the 19 passenger airplanes. And so the legislature worked hard. The state gave us $2 million that approved for revenue guarantees to start the service. Well, the service, the only time we spent money out of that, actually we only spent money out of the city portion of that. We gave that $2 million back to the state. Didn't spend a dime of it. And then we asked for them to reinvest $1 million back with us. Topeka took that $1 million that we gave back and tried to get United to work out of Topeka, and that didn't work. So they spent all that. But we're excited about that. We think it'll help increase capacity and hopefully create some more opportunities for folks to fly out of here. So I think you'll be excited about the airport and what it will have to offer for the future. It'll meet our needs for lots of years to come. Construction, I talked a little bit about. There's some pictures. We haven't been out on Casement Road lately. Casement and Marlette, that area north of the radio station. That's an area that's been redone. We put a new bridge in at where the Marlette ditch comes through. It's one of the places when we get heavy rains. That's one of the first places I used to go because I knew those culverts were undersized there, and I certainly didn't want people getting their homes wet. They were in a big inundation. So we now have a bridge there, so it won't be one of the first places I go look at because I know the drainage and capacity needs will be met there for a long time. Road maintenance and street maintenance is a big issue for us. We've kind of got a backlog. Oil prices have been high. We haven't been able to do as much asphalt work. I'm encouraged that with the low oil prices, we'll be able to do a lot more asphalt work this year and stretch those dollars like we used to. Our funds, not only at our level, but the state and national level, it's a debate that's occurring because everything's pretty stagnant. There's no, fuel economy is better in vehicles, so you're not selling as much gas, and so the tax raised on that, unless you raise the gas tax, you're not going to bring more money in there. And infrastructure is a big issue nationally as well. So how are we going to meet those future needs for improving that infrastructure? It's something we've talked to the commission about. We have what we call a pavement condition index that kind of shows you where our pavement in the community is. That line there in the gold, you can see the orange and the red are below that gold. If you don't do some work on the yellows and the blues, though, periodically, you'll quickly fall into those lower categories. So having enough money to do that's important. That just goes to show some of the street maintenance that's occurred over the past few years, and then this is the last 2 years, both in-house work and contractual work. And then just a couple other things. Stormwater, you may have heard recently if you live or been out by Seco Park. They're tearing some trees down in that drainage way. We're building 2 detention structures, one just below the swimming pool and one just to the east of the stadium. And so that's going to detain water, and actually it's going to, under the new FEMA maps, there were about 11 properties that were below Seco Park that were actually going to be heavily impacted by the new floodplains. And by building these detention ponds, I think we're going to take all but a couple out of that floodplain. So we're also going to do some additional landscaping. In the bottom right, the fill we're using to give the snow hill some definition and create some runs. So I know if you've read recently this winter in Des Moines and Omaha, they're closing their parks because there's been sledding accidents. So we're kind of doing the opposite, and Eric, I don't know, I don't think the audit committee will get involved in that. It's more the risk management side. But people ought to have fun, right? Yes. So hopefully we'll improve safety with these runs and give folks some fun if it snows again. I hope that doesn't change us. Because February last year was a big snow. Parks and Recreation, as far as our facilities go, they're doing a strategic facilities plan. Last year I talked to you a little bit about the field house report that had come out about this time, and so what this is a kind of taking that to the next step, really evaluating our local facilities, both indoor and outdoor, and giving priority. The next month, many of you may receive surveys in the mail about what's important to you for a facility, types of facilities, soccer, volleyball. I know Eric's got kids and he's coached, and he knows how challenged what it is to get into have facilities to even have practice, and at the dinner table, my 6th grade daughter said, "Dad, we've got to go to Westmoreland to practice. What's up with that? Can't you do something about that?" I said, "Go talk to Karen." Anyway, that will be going on. We anticipate a report back initially in March with some recommendations on how to proceed with that. But I think one of the things we're seeing is there's a lot of demand, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's parks and rec facilities, whatever the case may be, there's a lot more demand for the monies that we have. And that's the tough job of commissioners. And we have a new slate of commissioners that, with an election in April, that'll be have stepped forward to help solve those problems too. So I encourage you to get familiar with those folks. Great partnerships in the community with K-State, the Chamber, Fort Riley. Obviously, one of the things that I just wanted to highlight, I know you've heard 100 times, Lyle, I'm sure pounded it home last week, is the listening tour at Fort Riley. That's on Monday, February 9th. I was just over at Junction City at the Opera House where there was a regional planning group getting together working on that presentation. But this really is a session that the Department of Defense is leading to hear what makes Fort Riley unique from all other forts. Not everybody's, if they make cutbacks, everybody's going to be negatively impacted. They don't really want to hear what those negative impacts are. Why shouldn't we do that at Fort Riley? What's different about Fort Riley and the communities surrounding it that make a difference? And so that's really the emphasis that we're going on. K-State has some great examples of what they're doing with Fort Riley and soldier resiliency and families and just the sponsorships with the, I think there's too many Division I schools out there with Army logos on there and partnerships that it's more than the logo, it's the partnerships that those teams are creating with those soldiers. So it's really a cool deal. So I encourage you to, hopefully the plan is that there's going to be such a logjam on I-70 that the governor won't make it to the event, but we want him at the event. He's planning to be there. So please encourage your folks, and if you can make time there'll be public input sessions offered for that. Happy to try and get any questions you might have. Yes, sir.
They're building a big new dorm, and who knows what's going to happen with Fort Riley. That big apartment complex on the north end, is that still moving forward, or where are we at with that? Out on, like, on the northeast side, it's supposed to be the biggest apartment complex
Oh, okay,
in town.
yeah, I don't know about that. We have heard from them. They have told us they want to downsize that, so it sounds like they're going to come back and redo their planned unit development. So it's certainly not taking off as quickly as it was anticipated to be, and I think they are doing some rethinking about how much they're going to proceed with that, at least initially. Good question. Other thoughts?
Is there anything in the works for a direct airline from Manhattan to Denver?
Well, there was. You know, when we were part of that, we didn't get extensions on this $1 million because it was to try and use for other airline recruitment. We were working on United at the same time Topeka was working on United. And we were trying to get them to provide service to Denver as opposed to Chicago. We already had Chicago service. And ultimately, I think Topeka was willing to put more money up, and they felt better about that opportunity. They were, you know, right now, we're only capturing about 26% of the people that fly out of our catchment area. And that catchment area goes not about to Abilene, up to the Nebraska border, and not even to Topeka. So of the folks that we know fly, all the rest of them are going to Kansas City. And Kansas City is really tough to deal with. I know that. It's one of the least expensive airports because they have so much competition there and low overhead. As they redo some of their infrastructure over there, some of that's going to change. But the short answer is we tried and we're on hold there. We'd love to be able to do that, and I will certainly have capacity at the new airport terminal. Part of that is right now, because we don't have any more capacity, we're flat. We aren't showing that we're growing because we haven't been able to add flights or increase the size of our planes. As we show some of that data, I think we'll have a better chance of encouraging other airlines to take a look at us. One of the things I know we had Allegiant, you know, and that didn't last very long because they wanted 96% passenger boarding and we only had 80. Well, in our agreement that we're signing Tuesday, it's 80. You know, so most of the normal airlines, 80 is pretty good. But it wasn't good enough for Allegiant. But it showed us that we had 80% of the folks that wanted to go to Phoenix. So, you know, it wasn't, to me, it wasn't a failure at all because it showed there was demand for that market. And that was the other thing we were working on. We were stymied a little bit by the American and U.S. Air merger. American bankruptcy, U.S. Air merger. That really delayed things for a long time as they tried to figure out what they were going to do. They had basically, you got all the former U.S. Air chief executives that are now in charge of the new American. Most of the old American folks retired, and whether that's good or bad, it's you had 8 to 10 large airlines, now you got 4. So they all kind of work together, and they're all overbooking planes. So it makes it difficult to get into schedules to increase capacity with other places. Because if we're successful getting someplace, that means somebody else probably lost it. So those are the issues that they're not creating more planes and more pilots. So your market has to be better to justify the bigger plane or new service, and those are some of our challenges. Yes, sir.
You mentioned some of the things with Parks and Rec Department facilities. Is there been any talk of organizations like YMCA or something like this coming to fill that gap?
It's a great question. There has been in the past attempts by similar types of organizations, YMCA specifically, and others. One of the challenges we have here is the university and the fact that we have a university rec center, because a good percentage of our population has pretty easy access to that. Where if you're not affiliated with the university or if you're not alumni, you don't have access to that. And so it's difficult to fundraise for the remainder of the group to support what they need to have to make it go. Any other questions? Great having you. It's great to update y'all on where we're going. I think there's some exciting days ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and willingness to be here for us every year and give us an update. And we do really appreciate your leadership.